Good evening, everyone. It's been endometriosis month this month, and I've been away for part of this month completely offline, which has been really epic, but I have intended to do a little talk on endometriosis because I've done this before in the past talking about periods, period pain, but because it's endometriosis month, it's the last day of endometriosis month, I just thought I would jump in here and share some insights and knowledge around some of the things that we might not, that probably don't always get addressed in mainstream medicine with endometriosis, because there's a lot you can do for endo, and I know there's also a lot of people that are suffering with endometriosis, and it can be very debilitating, particularly when it's like on the extreme end of the spectrum. And I've shared this before with people. Period pain and period PMS and heavy periods and things like that is common but not normal. I say this quite a lot. I say it to my clients. I say it, I've said it in other videos. It really is common, but definitely not normal. And the one thing with endometriosis is you might not be able to get rid of endo, but it can definitely go into remission. And so there's lots of different factors for endometriosis. I've written some notes, which is quite unusual for me. But 1 in 9 women in Australia have endometriosis. And I was looking up the stats before I jumped on here, and I was just, the average amount of time that a woman will have endometriosis before it even gets diagnosed is 6.5 years, all right? And so the important factor with that is, and by the way, if you're there, say hello, and if you've got questions, please ask as I go, because I will endeavour to answer them, and if I can't answer them right now, I will get back to you. So 6.5 years, that's a freaking long time to be like suffering, and this is my point with painful periods, heavy periods, things that aren't normal, which is often what we put up with, right? So one of the things, a lot of people go and get surgery, and sometimes that is needed, 100%. And I am actually quite an advocate for, I've got this weird drink. I've had a carob drink. It looks a bit foul, but it's actually delicious. I'm not having any caffeine at the moment, so I'm even off cacao. So it's carob. Anyway, I digress. So one of the things with endometriosis is a lot of people will go and get surgery, but they don't actually address the underlying cause or the underlying drivers of that. And the same with, there's lots of other conditions, same with fibroids. People will go and get their fibroids removed, they have heavy bleeding, they find fibroids, but they're still not addressing the underlying issue. And so I'm not saying don't go get the surgery, because sometimes it's definitely needed depending on how far progressed the condition is. But there is a lot of things you can do that are underlying drivers, particularly with endometriosis and with fibroids and with other things, but particularly with endo, that you can address to at least get relief or at least reduce your symptoms, and best case, go into remission. And it is totally possible because people do it. So the mainstream narrative of the way that this is looked at is really, and this is, this happens with all health conditions, is we don't ask questions around diet and lifestyle. We don't ask questions around gut health. We don't ask questions around how we're digesting our food, or how stressed we are, or what traumas and resentments we've got going on, or what big traumas that we've had in our lives that have caused our nervous system to be so heightened that we have so much inflammation going on in our body. So, and crazy hormonal imbalances as a result. So surgery can be a good option for some people, but I still am going to say, hand on heart, let's also look at the underlying drivers of what's causing this condition to worsen, and what's the drivers of this, right? So that's where I come from. And I see this a lot with women, particularly who, you know, period pain, they're putting up with it, but there is so much you can do, and you don't have to put up with that and then go all the way through like reproductive years and then have a really horrible go through menopause and it be really horrific. So, and it doesn't need to be like that. So, you know, the trick to healthy menopause is also having a healthy period, and healthy hormonal cycles. So there's a couple of things that are the really big drivers of endometriosis. So I'm going to talk about them. First of all, inflammation is one of the big drivers. So with endometriosis, if you're watching this and you don't know what endometriosis is, basically the short of it is you have cells that are growing in the wrong place and there's too many, and they're growing outside the uterus, and it can be quite painful, and particularly with when you get your period. So there's lots of cells in the wrong place. That's the short version, right? And that's what can cause lots of pain. It can grow outside the uterus. It can be all through the pelvis. Like there's lots of different versions of endo, right? So that's the short of it. So there's a few drivers of this. One is inflammation, okay? And the second one is too much estrogen. So not enough, and when I talk about estrogen, I'm basically saying that there's external factors that mimic estrogen, and then our body will act as though it's got extra estrogen. And these are things like pesticides, BPAs in plastics. By the way, your receipts, when you go shopping, the highest form of BPAs, I was going to do a post on this today and I forgot, highest form of BPA like exposure is actually your receipts. So when you get receipts from the supermarket, I'd really try hard not to get them anymore, and you touch them on your fingers, and you know, like that is quite your skin is absorb stuff, right? BPA. So if you work in a retail shop, maybe you want to wear some sort of glove to protect yourself from that. So too many toxins, environmental factors that mimic estrogen in the body, right? That's the short of it. And a whole lot of combinations of different things in our environment that can do this. And there's some of them, pesticides in our food, chemicals in our food. There's lots of things that will mimic estrogen. And this causes problems. Now, the other underlying driver of this is the fact that our liver and our gut aren't working as well as they should. So then we're not clearing it out. So there's this synergy happening where it's like, so we've got too much coming in and it's in our bloodstream. And what happens is if the liver's not working as well as it should be from extra stresses, like things like alcohol and sugar and, you know, other chemical, there's a backlog. And so then it will recirculate around the body, and then our body will act as though there's extra estrogen. Then there's the other side of it, whereas we're not making enough progesterone, so there's this synergy, which, by the way, we need cholesterol to make progesterone. And so there's also this whole dynamic of not having enough cholesterol. It's ironic, right? We need cholesterol to make our hormones and to have healthy hormones. We need healthy amounts of cholesterol. And so we have this, everything works in synergy. And so too much estrogen, too much of the wrong types of estrogen, not enough progesterone for several different reasons. Lots of different reasons can impact progesterone production. For example, if you've been on the oral contraceptive pill and you've come off it, your hormones go offline when you're on the oral contraceptive pill. So there's lots of other things that can affect it as well. Stress as well. You know, if you're stressed, you're going to use up a lot of your cortisol will take priority for hormone production over progesterone. So there's lots of different factors that in fact impact this, right? Even how your thyroid's functioning. So there's a lot going on. But the short of it is the gut and the liver working properly? Are we having decent bowel movements? Are we having bowel movements every day? Are we eliminating effectively, right? And so for that to happen, we need the liver to be humming and we need the gut to be humming, and they work synergistically, because what happens is when our liver needs to get stuff out, the way that it gets it out the body is through bile, which goes through our digestive system. It goes into goes from our liver to our gallbladder into our small intestine. So, and then it goes and it goes out like a little animation. So there's this relationship needs to be working well, right? And this is the foundation of any health condition, really, is going, what's the liver doing? What's the gut doing? This is always where I'm thinking. I'm always where I'm going. If I'm working with someone one-on-one, it's like, what's the liver? What's the guts doing? What's happened? And I'm looking at everything going, oh yeah, I can tell that someone's liver is not working as well as it should. Or I can tell just purely also because their digestion isn't working as well as it should. It's like, what's your digestion like? Oh, I've got bloating and I'm constipated, or, you know, I'm not going to the bathroom regularly, or I'm even maybe if I'm going, it's still constipated. I'm not drinking enough. They're not drinking enough water. You know, like there's all these other factors. So gut and liver, okay? So they work in synergy with each other. So we need to reduce the amount of toxins in the world, in your environment that you can control, as well as work on getting your gut working, which means, are you digesting your food properly? And there's lots of things you can do for that. And are your bowels moving properly? And there's lots of things you can do that. And then what's the balance of, have you got a good amount of decent bacteria in your bowel? Because the health of all those little microbes that live in your gut really then they, like, if that part is not healthy, then the rest of our body is not healthy. And there's a deep connection between the two. We've actually got more gut bacteria in us. We're more bacteria than we are human. They outnumber us by about 10-1. Yeah. So more gut DNA than human DNA in our body. It's crazy, hey? So that's the one thing. The other thing that can drive this estrogen dominance is insulin resistance. So unregulated blood sugar levels. And insulin resistance basically means that the cell isn't really listening to insulin to let the glucose in. So then there's it's like the way I like to explain it is, just say there's a party someone's got a party on, or they've got the TV on really loud, or they've got the music on and they're dancing and they're inside a house, and someone's at the front door, which is insulin, and they're knocking and they can't hear. So there's got to be louder knocking or more people knocking, you know. So that's the way. And then the insulin in should be the one that's opening the door to the party, okay, to let the glucose in. So, you know, otherwise everyone's not even in the party. They're outside waiting to be let into the party. Yeah, that's a new analogy. I just made that up. So that's the other thing that can drive it. And then with endometriosis, the other thing is a dysfunctional immune system. So there is this underlying function which comes back to the gut, because most of our immune system is in the gut, is this dysfunctional immune system. And things not regulating, I'm not going to go into it, but like I think different parts of our immune system aren't regulating the way it should, and it is causing inflammation. So inflammation, chronic long-term inflammation, we've got two types of inflammation. Inflammation is like if you roll your ankle, break your arm, whatever, burn yourself. I burnt myself the other day. There's inflammation. We need that to, say, immobilize the joint, to allow the healing, because there's lots of healing components that are sent to that point to heal. But I'm talking about long-term inflammation, which happens when the gut isn't as healthy as it should be. And then we have this condition known as leaky gut. And basically, it's a heightened, the immune system is dysfunctional as a result, because there's all these things let into the bloodstream that shouldn't be there. as well as bacteria in the gut that isn't as like outnumbering the not so healthy ones and is causing inflammation. Yep, got that. So dysfunctional immune system, inflammation, too much estrogen, possibly not enough progesterone, insulin resistance, chemicals causing this, your liver not working well enough, your gut not working well enough. The other thing is there's nutrient deficiencies as well. So it would be very highly likely, 99.99%, that there would be some other deficiencies going on, nutritional deficiencies as well, because if the gut's not working as well, there's going to be other nutritional deficiencies. So they all work as well, because you're not going to be absorbing your food. Someone with inflammation may be would be eating a very inflammatory type diet. So eating lots of processed foods, eating lots of sugar, caffeine can also affect this, particularly with testosterone, which is more on the PCOS scale, but it can also affect it. And insulin will drive that too. So yeah, there's a lot going on, right? But see, all these things, the cool thing about this to me is that all these things can be addressed. All of these things, we can reduce inflammation, we can improve the gut health, we can get the gut working properly, we can support the liver, we can remove chemicals in the environment so our body isn't so burdened and actually has a chance to clean up the mess. There's lots and lots of things you can do, which is really empowering to me to go, yeah, I actually do have control over this and I'm not a victim of my circumstance, which is really cool. But the truth, notice the language I said, I'm not a victim of my circumstance, also comes down to mindset and the way that you view your health and what's going on between these two little temples, and the way that you view you and the way that you value you, and do you prioritize you, and how much do you think that you're worthy? Because this is the other thing that when we talk about stress, like this underlying drivers of not feeling good enough, not being worthy, prioritizing the people pleasers, putting everyone first. Women particularly get conditioned to do this from when we are kids, that we need to look after everyone. It's also a lot of part of our nature to be the carers, but as a result, our health suffers. So there's a lot of different things here, and doing the work for me on the foundation, on the nutritional level, is one part, and it's often the lowest hanging fruit. It's like, let's get on top of the inflammation, but calming down the nervous system is also really important, and going, okay, where's the stress in my life? And also going inward and looking at yourself with what stories are going on in between here, and the way that you're viewing yourself and the way that you value yourself, and actually learning to really take a sacred pause and learn to love yourself, which sounds totally cheesy, but it's so true. So there's lots of different components, and these are always the same they're the same components that I talk about with everything. So there's so much power. So if you're watching this and you do struggle with endo and you feel tired and frustrated, and I understand, because it can be really frustrating when you're not getting answers. But I just wanted to share this with you because there's lots you can do. And so if you're in severe pain and you're putting up with just having horrible, painful periods, first of all, you might not know that you've got endometriosis. And second of all, if you do know, there's things you can do. And if you're not getting the answers that you want, then maybe you need to find people to surround yourself with that are going to support you in your journey, rather than, I've seen this a lot too, people go to their doctor and they're like, oh no, you can't, there's nothing you can do, or that's rubbish, or, and this is no dig at doctors, but they're doing the best they can in the time they have. They don't have the knowledge on prevention, or they don't have the knowledge on healing the gut or supporting the liver or all that stuff. So I just hope this gets to the people that need to hear it. If you've got any questions, please comment below. Please like it. Please share it with anyone that you think might need this. And I hope you guys all have a beautiful night going into April tomorrow. Ciao.